this. I think efficient, at least in my role, I have to care about this because I have too much information coming out. And colleagues and peers. I've got analysts and press and advisors and investors and colleagues and peers and news feeds and TV and radio. It's just, to me, it's just way too overwhelming. So I look at it from the standpoint of there are two filters that all this information has to go through. There's a relevancy filter, and there is a, by the way, this is on SlideShare if you want to download it, you can. There's a relevancy filter, and there's an influences filter. And those are the two things that I give credibility to in the way that I stream or that I filter my information and consume my information. And as they go through that filter, they provide a tremendous amount of value. So this is the ideal, to me again, I think this is the ideal scenario. If I could wake up, figure out exactly what to do on a daily basis, somebody just says, like, do these things. If you do these following things, you're going to perform really well today. And I'm talking as a professional. Everything I'm talking about now is on a professional basis. So just do these things, listen to the people you're supposed to listen to, go to the things you're supposed to, and just repeat that, and you'll be working at a very high efficiency. So as I thought about people that do this, some professional coaches and some college coaches come to mind, and maybe some political figures, some presidents, maybe some CEOs. I obviously don't know those people well enough, but at every point, there was something that broke that down. They have a huge staff, they've got tons of advisors, they have things that the average worker doesn't have, the average professional. So they're not really relevant. When I really thought about who, on the average, can perform at a super high level on a daily basis, the only thing that I could come up with were kids. And it's because they've got a small set of influencers, and they've got a small set of relevancy. And everything that they're influenced by is relevant. So in this case, these are my boys. Luke is on the guitar. So he's got, Batman is a huge influence for him. He loves music. That's actually Zach's Star Wars laser. Huge fan of Star Wars. He knows every word to every Star Wars that's out there. I know I probably shouldn't have been watching, but I've been watching him for years. Small Paul is over there on the floor. But these guys just have a very small set of relevancy. There aren't too many things that are relevant to them. And they've got a small set of relationships. They've got their parents, they've got their cousins, they've got a couple of friends. Zach's got a teacher, Luke has a preschool teacher. And this, I think, applies to every kid. I just happen to have pictures of my kids. And then they've got a small set of, an additional set of influencers, which are their friends. And they don't have a ton of them, but they could. They've got, Zach goes to a school now, so he's got 30 kids, but of that set of 30 kids, he selected 2 or 3 that he wants to hang out with, that he's got some things in common. And that's the way I think you have to think about, or at least I have to think about narrowing my information set and my influencers so that I can be efficient. So I retitled this, Discovering Ambient Awareness, Be a Kid Again. So this is the concept that I hope that you at least think about, like just narrow the feed. There's just too much information. Look at all these vendors on here, including us. And that's where I think the synergy with Justin's talk is, at some point you've got to do business. And there are so many vendors that are similar. Some are better than others. Some are have more specific feature sets. But that's where the relationships come into play. It's, well, let's work with the people who are either we've got a relationship with or influential, everything else being the same. So I threw this thing together. It's a noise to age graph. One of the reasons I didn't try to graph these things is I just don't have the skill set. But what it shows on the vertical axis are influences, or influencers it could be. On the x-axis it's age. And then the curve shows what I think happens as you get into the work life. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got, as I say, a dozen influential people. You've got maybe 6 or 7 things that you find interesting, a couple cartoons, maybe some sports, you start to go to school. So you've got a very low noise level and you can be super efficient. A lot of that continues, I think, into elementary school, in high school, and maybe even into college. You start getting coaches and friends and girlfriends and boyfriends and other peers, maybe an advisor or two at school, but you've got a small network of people that you listen to and hang out with, and also a small set of information. I mean, you don't really read the paper, you don't have time, so you don't have all these news feeds coming in. But then you go to work, you start a couple years into work life, and you have a few more things. You have colleagues coming in, you might have a mentor, still very efficient because you've got a fairly controlled environment. But I think once you get into, 5 years into work, you start getting many more peers and colleagues and information coming at you. And at least in my world, it becomes distracting and just frankly overwhelming. So again, you've got to kind of call those things down. And that's really the core point of what I wanted to talk about, is trying to use tools and technologies and relationships to take all these huge sources of information. You might have 2,000 followers on Twitter or follow 2,000. I've got a couple thousand Facebook friends. I've got 600 emails stuck in my LinkedIn inbox because I don't check it frequently enough. Find the individuals that are most relevant, leverage those relationships and the information that stream through those relationships, and I think that's where you're going to find much higher levels of efficiency. It's just kind of covering the early years where you've got the low noise, and that's kind of one of the key points. I think that up through high school, you've got a low level of noise. Having those small data sets and influencers means that you've got a low level of noise, and then that noise just becomes way too high when you get into many years into your work life. So, how can community help? I think with the right types of community, you can minimize, you can first discover a whole ton of information and a whole ton of contacts and potential relationships. But then with the right tools and techniques, like the filtering type tools, and by even shutting off some of the connections that you might have, you begin to really minimize those trusted sources and amplify the information that is relevant and important. And this just coming back to, I think, with the previous slides, thinking about it as going through the information, is going through some type of filter and having the output be a ton of value that's based on efficiency and effectiveness is what, at least at Leverage Software, that's what we all try to achieve. So we accomplish a ton of work, a ton of output, 5 times more than I've seen out of other companies our size that I've been involved with, because of the efficiencies that we have by using our system. And we don't have to talk to each other that much. We tend to because we like each other, but we don't have to send emails and we don't have to have meetings that frequently. We just look at the feeds, we collaborate through wikis, we build things together, and then we have a meeting periodically. But the efficiency based on